Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thanks for assembling today. And I want to say some things before I start. Hari today was lying. He gave me 2 days, and I didn't say that's too short a notice. I said, Hari Bhaiya, I'm very unqualified. Give me more time. And I haven't been studying scriptures. You will find out soon. So if I make any mistake, please correct me and forgive me. And if it is something you regret, then blame Hari Bhaiya for giving me the opportunity. And, and I'm saying all this not to be humble, but I'm really telling the truth. Thank you. So we will be talking about the verse, first canto, 8th chapter, verse 15, 16, and 17. And the translations are small, so I don't know, do you want me to read including purports? Okay, we can do that. Right. So, Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjaya Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. All right. Text 15. Yadyapyastram brahma shirastva mogham cha pratikriyam Vaishnavam teja satya samashamya dabragudaha. Translation. O Shaunaka, although the supreme Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwathama was irresistible and without check or counteractions, it was neutralized and foiled when confronted by the strength of Vishnu, Lord Krishna. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Brahma Jyoti, or the glowing transcendental effulgence, is resting on Lord Sri Krishna. In other words, the glowing effulgence known as Brahma Tejas is nothing but the rays of the Lord, just as the sun rays are rays of the sun disk. So, this Brahma weapon also, although materially irresistible, could not surpass the supreme strength of the Lord. The weapon called Brahmastra, released by Ashwathama, was neutralized and foiled by Lord Sri Krishna by his own energy. That is to say, he did not wait for any other's help because he is absolute. Text 16. Mamam sthahrito dascharya sarvascharya machyate ya idam mayaya devya Srujatyavati Hanyatajaha. O translation. O Brahmanas, do not think this to be specially wonderful in the activities of the mysterious and infallible personality of Godhead. By his own transcendental energy, he maintains and annihilates all material things, and although he himself is unborn. Purport. The activities of the Lord Krishna are always inconceivable to the teeny brains of the living entities. Nothing is impossible for the Supreme Lord, but all his actions are wonderful to us, and thus he is always beyond the range of our conceivable limits. The Lord is the all-powerful, all-perfect personality of Godhead. The Lord is cent% perfect, whereas others, namely Narayana, Brahma, Shiva, the demigods, and all other living beings, possess only different percentage of such perfection. No one is equal to or greater than him. He is unrivaled. Text 17. Brahma tejo vinirmuktair atmajaisa krishnaya prayanabhimukham krishnam idamaha prathasati. Thus saved from the radiation of Brahmastra, Kunti, the chaste devotee of the Lord, and her 5 sons and Draupadi addressed Lord Krishna as he started for home. Purport. Kunti is described herein as Sati or chaste. Due to her unalloyed devotion to Lord Sri Krishna, her mind will now be expressed in the following prayers of Lord Krishna. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely the other living beings or demigods, even for deliverance from danger. That was all along the characteristics of the whole family of Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord was always ready to help them in all respect and in all circumstances. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. He reciprocates the dependence of the devotee. One should not therefore look for help from imperfect living beings or demigods, but one should look for all help from Lord Sri Krishna, who is competent to save his devotees. Such a chaste devotee also never asks the Lord for help, but the Lord, out of his own accord, is always anxious to render it. I have my own paper point, not PowerPoint. So these three verses bring us to the end of the story of Ashwathama, Brahmastra, and how Krishna saved his devotees yet again. This also brings us to the doorstep of the most illustrious, most magnificent, most glorious prayers by Queen Kunti. So we are at an exciting place. I always wonder, am I ready to ask for more trouble so that I can be close to Krishna? And yeah, I don't want to answer it here. So in verse 15, Srila Prabhupada is saying that the Brahmastra was neutralized by Krishna's energy. And he is infallible. And although the Brahmastra was irresistible, it could not face Krishna's energy. We know this material world is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. And so we are also manifestation of his energy. So I think we can say that we are energetic beings. Now, you know my profession. I cannot stop talking about wellness. I look at it and I see that we are energetic beings. That means there is no place for lethargy in our life. Anything that makes us lethargic is taking us away from Krishna. We have to be his perfect warriors. So we have to take care of our well-being, physical fitness, emotional fitness, nutrition, and be mindful about that. We have to conduct our lives in such a way. You know, one of the important responsibility that a devotee has is to propagate Krishna's name, propagate Krishna consciousness. How do we do that to people who are not ready to hear about Krishna? We have to conduct our lives in such a way that even if those who are not ready to take up the philosophy, they look at us and they're like, oh, this guy has something. What is it? And they get curious. And then the magic will happen, you know. We all probably got in here just like that, that we one fine day came and then the magic started happening and then some of us became addicted. So the equation is, in whatever, the material world is a manifestation of Krishna's energy and we are energetic being. So the equation, energy equation is very important. Whichever direction we put our energy in, that's the direction we get our results in. If I push this table in this direction, it will move in that direction only, it won't come to this side. So we have to be mindful, and this is like science. So the bhakti is transcendental science. Bhakti itself is transcendental, but the process of bhakti is very scientific. At least, you know, whatever I say here today is my interpretation, my take. So if I say anything wrong, please forgive me and correct me so I can learn something. But this is what I feel, that bhakti, although bhakti is transcendental, but the process is very scientific. It's like 2 + 2 is 4, but we have to direct our energy in the right direction so we can get the right results. So what do I mean by it's transcendental science? I feel like there are two ends of the spectrum. One end is transcendence, which is Lord Krishna, and the other end is us, the material energy. We are the material being. So we take up the scientific process of bhakti, and we in return receive the transcendental benefits. So I want to take the example of cooking. A very good chef cooks for people. He cooks with love. He puts all his heart. He wants to cook the best that he can, or new that is there, innovative food. But he is cooking for material energy people. So in return, he receives material gains, which is praises, salary, etc. But when we shift the equation and we look at somebody cooking in the temple, for example, Vasanta Mataji or Mother Kamagiri, they are cooking for Krishna. They're doing the same thing, following same ingredients, same recipe, same dedication, love. When we cook, we want to cook the best, but we're cooking for Krishna. So the other end of the spectrum has changed, and as a result, what we receive is purification of heart. So that's what I meant when I said that it's two aspect, the transcendence and science. We are I know I'm totally material being, so I have to take the scientific process and hope that I receive the transcendental rewards in it. So when we take up this process, in this process, we are kind of preparing our hearts so that the seeds of transcendence, the bhakti, can grow. So we have to, I feel like every step, every decision that I make, it should be in the direction that I'm preparing myself to be able to receive Krishna's mercy. Otherwise, he is all merciful. His mercy is flowing, but I have to tune in my frequency to receive his blessings, his mercy. So, one of the things I'm always amazed, like our scriptures, our culture is so rich. And we read Bhagavatam, we read Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and we know all this. Our ancestors knew all this knowledge, they had it. We should be more advanced than that. I want my kids to be better than me, more advanced. How did this happen that we came to this forgetful stage and we are so ignorant of our knowledge? So that's my personal perspective. Whenever I listen to a story or read scriptures or whatnot, I try to see what is in it that I can apply to my life in that scientific process so I can be able to receive the benefits. So that's what I think I will try to do today. We are kind of culminating the chapter of Brahmastra by Ashwathama. So I want to kind of summarize and discuss my personal realizations that I want to apply in my life. I cannot talk about philosophy. I'm not qualified. And suddenly, if I talk about philosophy, all energetic beings will turn lethargic. They'll fall asleep. I don't want that to happen. So I'll give you my perspective and hopefully you appreciate and participate. And as I'm saying, I'm summarizing. If at any point, let's make it two-way. If you have any realization, please share so we all will benefit from this. So the story begins with Ashwathama. I so many times I think like, even those like Hari was mentioning about Keshi demon. And sometimes I wonder, this may be wrong what I'm saying, but I wonder like Keshi demon got to see Krishna. He got killed by Krishna. Look at us. we are just trying to conceive the inconceivable. So I feel he's more fortunate than us. So on the same lines, I was thinking about Ashwathama, and I was thinking like, yes, we say he did these abominable activities and, he shouldn't have done. But I try to see, is there an Ashwathama in me? Or will I be in his position? And what can I learn from this that has happened in past so I don't make these mistakes in future? Ashwathama was son of Dronacharya. This is not a small thing to be son. Dronacharya was the master of, he was the teacher for Pandavas and Kauravas. So, it's not by chance that you can become son of Dronacharya. He was very competitive. He was very brave, ambitious. He had same affiliation, same affection for Duryodhana and Pandavas. But the trouble was his ambition. because he was son of Dronacharya, he wanted to become the best amongst all his disciples. And that's when the envy started with Arjuna. And, things. So he had good qualities, but he didn't apply. He was not able to apply those in the right direction. And as a result, his path got deviated from the right path. I'm sure Guru Dron was always there to guide him, but he somehow couldn't control the other trajectory that Ashwathama had taken. So in our lives also we will come across such things, and then that will be the time that we have to pause. I feel like in my life, if I come at a point when my desires or wishes are not being fulfilled, or I'm getting in the direction, oh, if I only do slightly, this is not bad, just not good, and if I do this, I'll get the result. Maybe that will be the time that I'll pause and I'll pray and I'll try to learn from this story that if you change your path by 1 degree today, 10 years later, you don't know which path you are on. So that's one thing I learned. Another quality of Ashwathama, he was very loyal. Good quality, very good quality. He was loyal to Duryodhana. That was the problem. So loyalty towards a wrong master. I mean, I was trying to think any example in my life where, I did a good thing because that was the right thing to do, but maybe for a wrong cause or to support wrong person. And we all get stuck in situations like that. Anybody can recall any incidents where you were like, maybe not, but right now this is because in Ashwathama's mind, he was upset because his father was killed wrongfully. His father received a news that was not true. He was sitting in meditation. He should not have been killed, but he got killed. He had a lot of affection. They actually, both father and son had a lot of affection for each other. So he was upset about that. And when he saw Duryodhana laying on the floor, he was very shattered by that. He was very sad, and he wanted to do something for his master. So that was a good quality. The loyalty, it was a good quality, but towards the wrong person. So that's what I thought I learned from Ashwathama. I'm sure I have been in situation, if not in future, we live in Kali Yuga, so we will be in situation where we will know this is the right thing to do, but not the right time, or not the right person, or not the right location. So at that time, what will I do? I may not have answer, but at least I'll start with a prayer. I'll pray to the Lord, guide me. And if I make a mistake, please help me learn a lesson here. Sometimes it takes being bold and saying that, hey, I am not comfortable and I'm not doing it. So that's the thing I learned from Ashwathama, I think. So even if he is a negative character, there is something we can learn from him so that we ourselves don't turn into negative. So anything anybody else thought of Ashwathama? Like any realization from him, from what we talked about?
I was just thinking the points of, you said we can learn from anything, we can learn from Ashwathama. I was just hearing this class by Radha Govinda Maharaj, and he was saying, that Hiranyakashipu, when he was pacifying the wives of Hiranyaksha, when Hiranyaksha gets killed, he gives very good instructions. He gives like, you're not the body, you're the soul. He gives like very Bhagavad Gita's chapter 2 type instructions, And then Radha Govinda Maharaj was like, so this big perplexity, should we take instruction from Hiranyakashipu? Should we do this? And then he said, in one sense, yes, you can take instruction from him, because if it was important enough for Sukadeva Goswami to repeat, then it's quite important to know. But then Radha Govinda Maharaj said, you should maybe take that instruction, but you should not take the conclusion. Because when Krishna is ending the Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, he's saying, instead of surrendering onto Krishna, his conclusion was, surrender onto me, I'll kill Vishnu. So that was Hiranyakashipu's conclusion. So I was just making that point that we can learn from even the demons, the so-called demons and the so-called bad characters. You can learn from them.
Yes, but use your discrimination.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
eventually, like these demons, like Keshi and all them, because they were killed by the Lord, they got Sarupya Mukti. So that's one benefit. But
Yeah.
but Vaishnavas, Prabhupada says Vaishnavas don't get Sarupya Mukti, but more we should learn from their bad example than their good example.
Yes.
You know? Well, it's kind of like what not to do. You know?
Yes, yes. And if you're in that situation, how to deal with that situation. Yes. I agree that, even if we don't get mukti, we would like to serve Krishna.
Yeah.
There is that story of gopis giving the dust of their feet to Krishna, So, yes, we always have to be. But I feel like, we all will fall. So we need his mercy and his forgiveness so that we can move on. So we talk about Ashwathama. Now the story, the main, I feel, the part is Uttara Surrender. When the Brahmastra, Ashwathama releases the Brahmastra, she goes to Krishna and she goes, Pahi Pahi Mahayogin. What is it? Pahi Pahi. Deva Deva Jagatpate. Nanyam Tvad Abhayam Pashye. Atra mrityu parasparam. So she is saying that, without you, I don't see any, in this duality, in this world, I do not see any rescue. When this happened, everybody is there, all the Pandavas there. Abhimanyu is not there anymore, but Arjuna is. So if we think from any other perspective, it is Arjun's responsibility to save Uttara, and Uttara should go to him. Arjuna has already, with help of Krishna, pacified the Brahmastra prior to this episode. So if it is that much of trouble, where would we go? We would go, oh, save me, whosoever is the next person. But Uttara is intelligent enough. She doesn't go to Arjuna or Pandavas. All five are there. She goes to Krishna. So that's very important that, where do we take shelter, and when does Krishna help us? So this is a bunch of years back. I had seen a picture of the Dyuta Krida where Draupadi's Vastraharan. And in that picture, this is when I had started looking at Krishna conscious books, and Draupadi was standing like this in that picture. And I saw that, and in my arrogant mind, I thought, what a wrong message. If you're in trouble, if this is happening, you should hold your sari or your dress. You don't just raise your hands. And it took me a couple of years to understand what was happening. It was an act of surrender. It was not that she was not trying to. She was like, oh, I won't do it. I have this exam, Krishna. You write my paper. I'm raising my hands. That was not the... Yeah.
All right, Krishna. Take over.
So that was not the meaning of that picture. Draupadi went to everybody. Bhishma Pitamaha was there. She went to everybody. She talked to her 5 husbands that, and when she realized nothing can work for me, that's when she totally gave up. She was holding her sari also, but when she realized, no, it's not working. Where do I go now? What is my last resort? That was surrender. So we sometimes think that the last resort is doing something. What do I do? What do I do? And for a devotee, sometimes last resort is Krishna, you do something. I realize I cannot do anything. So that's very important. We have this picture of Gajendra here. And again, in the beginning, I'm like, God forbid, but if my foot is in crocodile's mouth, I'm not raising flower to anybody. Again, the same story, surrender, Krishna himself says, Sarva dharman paritajya, mamekam sharanam vraja. So there is this thing, even in Mahabharata, before Brahmastra, there was one more astra that Ashwathama used. Anybody remember? Yes. Narayana Astra. Thank you, Prabhu. So the thing with Narayana Astra was that, like Brahmastra is like drone. It goes to the goal. But Narayana Astra, it can go anybody and no matter how many people, anybody resists it, it kills that person. What you have to do is surrender. If you surrender, it will just go away. When the Narayana Astra was used, Arjuna was getting ready to fight back, and Krishna guided him, no, you have to surrender. And the surrender is such, it's not that, oh, okay, if I get a chance next time I'll take my revenge and right now I'm bowing down. No, you have to surrender from heart. So that's a very important lesson. Again, I was talking about Draupadi. It's not that she was not trying to save, but in her heart, she had surrendered. In her heart, she knew that the only shelter I have is Krishna. So that's very important for us, that, you know, in our heart, don't leave the pen on the paper, you know, write. In your heart, you should know that Krishna will guide you, but you have to write your paper if you want to pass the exam. So that's very important thing that we learn from the surrender, and you know, how to surrender. So in I think it's in 16 or anyways, Krishna personally protected his devotee, as we see multiple times he has. In this story, we saw that Krishna personally, without looking for anybody else, he protected Uttara and Maharaj Parikshit. So this reminds me of a story. Once a Muslim king was asking his Hindu priest or chief priest or minister that, you Hindus, you have so many gods and goddesses, and what is it about, like, you know, if I have to do something, I tell my people to do it, like, you know, I have a finance minister who takes care of finances and everything. What is up with your gods? They have to go in person to do all their work, so they're not good administrators. So the priest stayed quiet. Sometime later, they were going on their convoy somewhere, and by chance, the daughter of the king falls in water, in a flowing river, and the king right away jumps into the river and he saves his daughter. And the minister or the priest, instead of getting worried, is smiling, and the king is thinking, like, what's going on? There is something in his mind. He is a wise man. So then he asks, what happens? He says, remember, you asked me if I need something, I tell my minister to do it. Why does your God have to come? Why didn't you ask your soldiers to save your daughter? Why did you jump in? Because you love your daughter so. You will not wait for anything. You will right away jump in. So that's very important, that, you know, for us to know that Krishna will protect his dear devotees. He will protect everyone, but, you know, in what ways? That's also important. Like Hari was saying, we have to use our discrimination. I have an exam coming up, and if I don't prepare and I pray, Krishna, please save me, he may not save me by helping me pass the exam. He may help me flunk the exam so that I learn my lesson that I had to study. So he is ready to save everyone, but he is ever so ready to save his devotees. So then what do we do to become his dear devotee? What are the qualifications that, you know, then Krishna would personally come and save me and not send, you know, a lesson my way rather than protecting me? So we have to have undeviated, one-pointed devotion towards Krishna. We have to leave our crutches like Draupadi did. She talked to everyone, and then she realized none of this is working. I have to take shelter for Krishna. So, you know, we Draupadi, Uttara, those are the examples that, you know, we have to have that devotion. Sometimes when I was thinking about it, I remembered that story of the Brahmana who diligently every day used to, if anybody remembers the name, tell me the name of the Brahmana, I forget. But he used to read Bhagavad Gita every day, and one day he was reading chapter where Krishna says that, you know, if you have undeviated devotion towards me and meditate on my transcendental form, I will preserve all that you have, and I will personally provide what you lack. Yogakshemam vahamyam. So this Brahmana thinks, yeah, I understand. He can, again, the same like the king, I understand he can motivate that I have to go home, and he'll motivate Alec Prabhu to drop me home or something like that. but he will not do it. Why would he do it personally? And if you know the story, he made a scratch mark on that part, and then later on when he went to get his alms or bhiksha, he didn't receive anything. Meanwhile, back at home, a beautiful boy came and he said that he dropped all the supplies to his wife, and he had a scratch mark on his back. And the wife of the Brahmana asked, "What happened on your back?" And he says that, "Oh, I have a very tough master, and when I make a mistake, he beats me, and that's the scratch from." So eventually, long story short, Brahmana comes home, and he at first is chastised by his wife. "Why do you do that to young kids?" But then she shows all the supplies, and the devotee, the Brahmana is thinking, who has done this? I don't remember having any such child devotee, let alone being rude or beating him up. So, but then he goes, opens his evening routine Bhagavad Gita, and he sees that the line is unscratched. The scratch mark that he had done was removed, and he realized that Krishna he did personally deliver the supplies. So he just provides what we lack. So that kind of makes me think that Krishna is so merciful. We were talking about the surrender, but if we are sincere, if we are deliberate, if we are, showing, consistency in our services, or even our curiosity towards Krishna, even if we doubt his capacities, like this Brahmana was, he comes and shows you. He shows the right path that, I can still do it. So all we need to do is to be consistent, serious, sincere, and deliberate in our efforts, and Krishna will deliver, hopefully, us. So we talked about the Ashwathama. We talked about surrender, who to surrender, how to receive. So another important character or prop is the Brahmastra itself. What do we learn from Brahmastra? Or I'll keep it for end. So, yes, please, Prabhu. Go ahead.
This was just something that came to my head. Forgive me if it's incorrect or misleading. But I think the Brahmastra can kind of symbolize just death in general, or anything that happens to us that's poor in life. Mm-hmm. Or even necessarily good, too. Sometimes we get too inflated when something good happens. But that can symbolize the things that are coming for us. So death, for example, is coming for us no matter what. So what are we going to do? Are we going to panic and run around and see what we can do and try to prevent death? Are we going to do our best to try and stop ourselves from dying, which is impossible? Or are we going to surrender to the fact that, well, someday this body's going to die? Yes. And my spiritual being, because as human beings, we're material and we're kind of like the medium. We're like spiritual and material beings, like a medium right now. So it's like we're bound to this body. And so when you surrender to Krishna, right, and to the fact and start learning how to surrender to Krishna, it's like you're preparing for that death. So that Brahmastra can kind of symbolize death coming towards you. It's inevitable. So what are you going to do? So a lot of things someone can do. They can go out and try and make a lot of money, or they can go out and, become really famous, or become a successful scientist, or have a job, or have a family, and all these things can be good sometimes. But if you're not prepared for death, what are you doing in life? That's the goal. We're here, pretty much, as corny as it sounds, we're born to die. So that's just a thought that I had in my head, and a good symbolization for it. If anyone has any other ideas, I would love to hear it.
Brahmastra makes me, like you said, what can we learn? It's so focused even before we discuss that. Brahmastra, you give the target and you go hit that target. So what we can learn is stay focused in what is more important, and like what even Prabhu said, at the end of the death, when the death comes, are we prepared? If we are not focused, then no, we are not prepared.
Yes.
We cannot focus on the right thing.
Yes.
And not get deviated so easily.
Yes, that's true. One of my aunt, she when I was in med school in India, she used to always say that if you have not done it throughout your life, you will not be doing it at your deathbed. If you have always done my family, my possession, my money, my body, don't think that, at the end, even if you know in your mind what you're supposed to, you will be able to do. So that's a very important point that, we have to prepare. It was also important, I didn't think of it that way. Being a physician, sometimes I see patients in clinic and some of them are sick. And I'm not necessarily thinking of death, but that's one thing I'm worried about, that, that's the worst outcome that can happen, but it will happen also, right? Like the doctor who is treating will also face that end. So, so so many days I feel that helplessness and that thing that, my patients come and they're like hoping I'll fix things and this won't happen, that won't happen. And I tell them, I'm just like you. Your fears are my fears too. I'm worried about you and I'm worried about myself. At least you don't have to worry about me. So that was very interesting. I didn't think of it that way, but that was very interesting. So to talk about Brahmastra, it's an Astra. The others were Shastra. Anybody knows the difference? Do we have time, Haribhaiya? Are we running out? Okay. Okay. So Astra and Shastra, right? Anybody knows the difference? So that
denote weapon, Astra and Shastra.
Yeah, I always thought that, I'm married into a Punjabi family, so we always say chai shai. My kids make fun, jute shute. So I always thought it's Astra Shastra. Astra is the Shastra are made up of metal. They are physical. Astra are more subtle, and they are invoked by mantra. So you don't carry it with you, but it's a mantra that you have and you invoke. And it's very important. We were talking about Ashwathama. So when we speak in Sanskrit, like we say Ashwathama had this Astra. In Sanskrit or in Hindi, we say, like for Ram, in Ram Raksha Strot, it says that one Ram has Sandhan the Dhanush, or he is like holding, in English, I don't know what's the word, but the meaning of Sandhan, it has two parts, accommodation and coalition. So accommodation means not everyone can have Brahmastra. So that was one of Ashwathama's qualification, that he had Brahmastra. We cannot down talk him because he is more qualified than us. So he not only could accommodate. Coalition means the property of Brahmastra that Alec Prabhu was saying, that it's focused. The energy, it's usually talked in terms of these days, in terms of radiations, like when we do radiotherapy for cancer patients and stuff like that, or maybe in physics also, that if you're sending rays from a source, we don't want that radiation to go to any other body part, but to the part that needs to be destroyed or that needs the therapy. If there is a tumor in the lung, the radiation has to go to the tumor only. It should not, and it cannot go to the rest of the lung. Otherwise, along with tumor, the lung will be destroyed too. So, these are important. This is very important weapon or astra that we have that's invoked by mantra. So I want to see, anybody knows who else? Ashwathama had Brahmastra, Arjuna had, we read that. Who else had Brahmastra in Mahabharata? Yes, Karna had. Krishna, Pradyumna, and if I recall, Yudhishthir Maharaj also had Brahmastra. But, so this is all, everybody had this powerful thing and they knew what do they have. Who happened to use it? Ashwathama. Right? Everybody had it. Arjuna used it, but he used it for a different purpose with the instructions from Krishna. Ashwathama, on his accord, for a wrong reason, he used it. Do we know who outside Mahabharata had Brahmastra? Rama, maybe he had, but yes. And Parshuram, yes. Indrajit. Indrajit had it or Meghnad had it? Indrajit. Meghnad and Indrajit? Okay, so yeah, so I thought Meghnad, but they are both the same. So Meghnad, son of Ravan, Lakshman had it, Lord Ram had it. Who used it? Meghnad used it. So that's the thing. You hold the power, and power is intoxicating. A good surgeon is one who knows when not to operate. When I send my patients to surgeon, I tell them, see, I'm sending you to a surgeon. And what do they talk about? Doing surgery. So you have to be careful. Talk about pros and cons. Once you have surgery, there is no undoing. Same with Brahmastra. Once you discharge, there is no undoing. And so we have to be mindful. They had to be mindful, which most were, except for Ashwathama and Meghnad. So, we have to be careful about our powers. So that leads me to the question, the last question. Do we have Brahmastra? What are our Brahmastra?
Words.
Very good. Yes. What else?
I mean, I guess it's kind of tied in because words can be defined as thoughts or actual spoken words.
Yes.
But behavior too.
Uh-huh.
Like the way, actions, the way you treat other people and interact with other people.
Yes. Yes. Is this a Brahmastra? Don't use it, right? It can make the time flow faster. So, any distraction, those are our Brahmastra. We were talking about that anything that makes us lethargic takes us away from Krishna. We're supposed to be energetic being because we are product of his energy. There is no lethargy. So, it's very important. As Hari said, the Vani, the words, speech is very important. And once you shoot it out, there is, looking back. And we have heard it so many times. This is one more reason to, pause before you say and, be mindful of our Brahmastra. We don't want to fall in the category of Ashwathama or Meghnad. We want to stay in the other category. Our thoughts, they bring the action. We talked about being focused. So, that's very important that we stay focused on our path. Distractions will come, and when they come, we have to use it for right purpose. So, we can watch a movie, or we can enhance our knowledge, or we can listen to a lecture or bhajan. So, I don't say always this, I don't do it, I use it for other stuff also, but by and large, we have to mind which path we are going on to. So, I think those were any other realization. Anybody? Yes, Hare Krishna.
In the third canto, in the beginning, beginning chapter, as Vidura came back from his pilgrimage, and so then Duryodhana speaks very harsh words to Vidura, and he says, basically that he's basically saying, Vidura, you're the son of a maidservant. What are you just speaking about? Just basically deriding him. And then while Vidura, what he does is that it says in the verse after he is derided, he's saying that Vidura walks out after the piercing arrows of Duryodhana's words. Vidura drops his bow and leaves for the forest. So that I'm just paraphrasing. But why it's so significant is that the words are compared to arrows, and then they hurt. They hurt when the things happen. But Vidura, being a self-realized personality, it didn't affect him much. But then he knew that there was no saving Duryodhana or anybody else. He already saved. If we remember, he saved it in the Canto 1, Chapter 13. We'll get to that. He saved Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, and then so he's basically saying to Vidura is telling to Dhritarashtra, you're living like a servant in your own, like he was living in the Pandavas mentioned, and after fighting the war, it's kind of awkward,
Yeah.
So he's kind of thinking. So he said, "Why don't you just renounce the world, go to the forest?" So Dhritarashtra and Gandhari went to the forest with him. He comes back, and then he's trying to preach again, and then he gets these harsh words, and he realized there's no helping. And then for Vidura to drop his bow is also very significant. That he's not gonna fire back again. And then that's when he meets Uddhava, and Uddhava tells him about Maitreya, so this leads up to the third canto. This is like the basic inside of the third canto. So it all starts from these arrows being thrown. So it's which are words.
Thank you.
This story is not just like chronology, not chronological, when he threw the Brahmastra to Uttara. These things are not like chronological, but Srimad Bhagavatam just explain these incidences in such a way that, sometimes one before the other. So look like this one happened before the other happened. Actually, these are the things happening simultaneously, in the sense that Arjuna, Bhima, Krishna, Ashwathama, they're all like toward the bank of the Ganges where he threw the Brahmastra. But because he does not know how to recall the Brahmastra, Ashwathama himself was not trained yet how to recall the Brahmastra, so was helpless. So he needed to redirect it. And then he redirected it to Uttara. Uttara was somewhere in the palace. So they are not the same place. They were not at the same place. Krishna, Arjuna, Bhima, they're all different places toward the back of the Ganges. So when Uttara was offering these prayers, not offering these prayers in presence of Krishna. Krishna was not there. Arjuna was not there. Bhima was not, they were not there. So, but she realized that she had to really, she knew who Krishna was. And then she had to really surrender to Krishna, offer prayers to Krishna. And then Krishna had to intervene, even though he was far away from the place. He actually intervened. That's why he entered the womb of Uttara to protect the womb. So it's not like she was offering these prayers in presence of Krishna and Arjuna and all that, but it was not a chronological thing. It was not explained in such a way as to just to mention the incidences that happened, but they are all in different places where this is happening almost at the same time. When this thing is happening, it was after all these things that Ashwathama was actually captured. It was after all this that Ashwathama was after both of this. Ashwathama was captured.
So Ashwathama's through the first one.
The same Brahmastra, not two times.
Not two Brahmastras.
Not two Brahmastras. The same Brahmastra is true, and then Lord Krishna told Arjuna to counteract it. But Ashwathama found himself very helpless, and he redirected his Brahmastra also to Uttara in order to kill the last hair of the Pandavas. So Uttara saw the Brahmastra coming, and then she hastily started making prayers to Krishna to save her and her womb, in a sense. So when this was happening, there are different places at the same time. So before Arjuna now arrested Ashwathama and took him to the camp where Drupadi and the other Pandavas were suggesting what to do with Ashwathama. So these are different places where this can happen, but almost at the same time.
So in the verses it is mentioned that Uttara was running towards the cart in the chariot.
No, that was Drupa. That was Kunti.
No, it says as soon as he seated himself himself on the chariot to start for Dwarka, he saw Uttara hurrying toward him in fear.
This was it was recorded here like this, but actually it's different. We read it from Mahabharata. It's different. You know, that is it. So you could just understand how this can happen because Ashwathama already been punished before Krishna wanted to leave for Dwaraka. All these things have already taken place. Ashwathama already been, sent away, punished and sent away from the camp before Lord Krishna decided to leave for Dwaraka. So that's what I was saying. It's not chronological. Times are different, but it was recorded in this way, to present the facts, what really happened. But it's not, in sequence. Yes.
But Mahabharata is chronological.
Yes.
So, but this may not.
Yes. Yes.
So, Prabhu, do you have any comments on Ashwathama is still alive?
Lord Krishna mentioned that Ashwathama how to have these courses. He had to be free from the course after 400 years or something like that. 400 years. He'll be free from the course. So Ashwathama is already freed from the course. And another 400 or 4,000 years. He will go without shelter, without, be foul smelling, and then have to enter into the forest and all that. He had to suffer these sinful reactions for a very long time. But Ashwathama is one of the sages or brahmanas who actually re-established religious principle in Satya Yuga after the Kalki avatar. One of those sages, Ashwathama, is one of them who really re-established the Vedic principles, Vedic wisdom. So Ashwathama is still available, still around. He's going to live to the end of Kali Yuga.
Somebody was saying he's the next to Vyasadeva or something like that.
Who?
Ashwathama.
Vyasadeva?
Take that post of Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva. Yeah, Vyasadeva is always there. He's always going to be there. There are different incarnations of Vyasadeva at different times. So, but he's going to be there.
Vyasadeva is a post.
It's not a post. So many people, so many personalities come as Vedavyas. Like this particular Vyasadeva is considered to be like Vishnu Tattva. But not all Vyasadevas are Vishnu Tattva.
Some are Satyavesh.
Yeah, some are Sakshavesh avatars. They come to, this it looked like it's always in a cycle. Things are always going in a cycle, coming in a cycle, and all things repeat almost themselves. So it's always like that happening. Vyasadeva always come in the next dispensation, next Dwapara Yuga also, maybe another Vyasadeva comes to re-establish the Vedas, rewrite it and all that. What's going on eternally. So, but Ashwathama is going to be there to help to establish Vedic system again.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it's not an ordinary personality. Just like Mother is saying, Ashwathama is just an ordinary personality. Even though he did some whimsical things, sometimes also they have to be used. People have to be used to do certain things. Even though nobody can do such things, but he's a great personality, full of mystic powers and all that. He has his own role to play in all this.
Any other thoughts, any questions?
Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts?
I really like clearly did some crazy things. Sorry, Prabhu. He clearly did some crazy whimsical things, as he said, but like everything was playing its role. So a lot of the time in this discussion, we talked about learning from demons and learning from other people that are doing bad things. That also deals with ourselves too. Just like we talked about how actions and words are like a Brahmastra. You throw them, you can't take them back. But that doesn't mean you can't learn from them. So we really have to acknowledge that we have demons in our heart, if you don't acknowledge that you have demons in your heart, they're gonna come and bite you in the worst ways sometimes. Sometimes it'll be subtle, sometimes it'll be really, really obvious and bad. But even then, it's our responsibility to understand that those are there and continue to work on that surrender, because then we can become more and more pure and kind of clean out the heart and purge it from all these demoniac feelings, thoughts, actions, beliefs, behaviors. But yeah, I thought that point was good to add, because it's good to learn from other people that are doing bad things, but it's also good to learn from ourselves when we do something bad. So
I had one question if there's time. Nobody else wants to ask a question.
If you are asking questions, thank you. It was such a great, very nice class. I have to re-listen to it because there are so many points that I like to not remember. Yeah, like the point that seeing good in everything. You saw good since last 3-4 weeks. We have been
Blaspheming this guy.
taking him to a tour. Yeah. So it was really interesting to have your perspective in such a nice way. And also, I like the point where you said that even when, if you're in trouble, you first exhaust all your drives and then you say Krishna, you are the last resort. Instead of saying that, okay, I'm gonna fail, but Krishna, please help. But instead of that, try put your everything. So, a lot of the times that happens, that we have not tried enough, and we know that it's not gonna work, and we haven't tried, and we say, okay, Krishna, please take care. But yeah, I think keeping that in mind, that first exhaust all the attempts, and once you are helpless, like Draupadi, so at that time we can fully surrender. And also, so I think the examples that you gave, she was not she tried to reach out to all the Pandavas. So very nice points.
I was thinking of that, and that we were talking. Krishna personally delivers that he sends a devotee or something.
Yeah.
We also have to think he might use us as his instrument when So when I'm in trouble, he might empower me. But if I decide not to take action and defend, then he's like, I'm sending you help, you're not using it.
Yeah.
We have to receive. So
Yeah.
that's why we can't be. I just always feel that, the message should not be to be complacent and just sit along. He never recommends that. He always recommends you have to do your duties. That's what he told to Arjuna. So he can send helps in different ways. That's why he's inconceivable. We cannot imagine how he will send the help.
Yeah, so you lied in the beginning that you're not qualified to give the class.
Thank you.
I just have one question.
Yes.
You were mentioning in your class that one-pointed and surrender unto Sri Krishna alone. And there's this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunana bahushaka henantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam, that one-pointed determination onto one point, Krishna, is better than bahushaka yanantascha. That if it's not one pointed, bahushaka, there's many thousands, millions, billions. So I was thinking that one of the aspects of surrender is one pointed surrender onto Sri Krishna. And we see this in a lot of devotees. We see this in Draupadi. We see this in Gajendra. More visibly in Gajendra, because he never went to any of the demigods. And it wasn't just for like 5 minutes the crocodile was there. It was there for 10,000 celestial years. So long time. So now we understand from Bhagavatam that the demigods can, like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Lord so many demigods, they can be they're devotees, but they can be mixed devotees, pure devotees and mixed devotees sometimes. So when we approach them, we are not allowed to go for, like, for example, Lord Shiva, or Lord Ganesh or somebody like that. We are not allowed to go to them with because even in Bhagavad Gita it says antavatu phalam te samtat bhavati alpamedasam devan deva yajoyanti mad bhakti yanti mamapi, that demigods, when people go to demigods, it's mainly for material things.
because that's what their specialty is. But for direct, my leg's stuck in a crocodile by something happens. When we go to Krishna, sometimes Krishna doesn't lift up the phone immediately, So the temptation is there to go to other stopgap measures and the demigods and then I think even in one, I keep bringing this up because it's so good. Prabhupada one time asked, "What's humility?" And then so Prabhupada answered that nothing will save you, not your family, not your education, not your gun, not your country. Nothing will save you except the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's surrender and humility. So when we get these temptations that, okay, the material world can save me, or the society can save me, or or up to even the demigods, they can save me. How do we get that determination, that vigor, that Sri Krishna is the only one who can help me out in this situation, even when he is treating you, you can. It's like 8 verses Shastra, that he can handle me by however he wants, but he is my Lord as always. So how do we get that vigor, that to keep going and on this path even when the tides get rough?
I may not have exact answer, but I'll say by my understanding. So the verse that you said about Shikshashtakam, that he can deal with us any which way, but he is our shelter. That's the bottom line. So that's what I was saying when I was talking about Narayani Astra, that you have to surrender by your heart. But you can just bow down and be thinking of, next time how am I going to take my revenge. So that's what it is, that as we were talking, that we have to make effort. Sometimes if it is suitable, this is my understanding, that in your heart you need to know that if I receive help from somewhere else, it still is coming from Krishna. He is inspiring. He is the end point. Everything should dovetail to Krishna. I also say that because I know I'm not there yet. I have to arrive there. So what are my steps? In the process, I'll make mistakes. But if I'm one pointed, then I have to get there. I have to go home. I may take 71. I may take 270. Somehow, I have to get home. And that is my home. I know at the end I'll be there because my family, so in this case, Krishna is waiting for us. So he'll make sure if I'm not able to reach, Sumit Prabhu will come and get me, right? He'll help me. So hook or crook. So that's why I feel when you were saying he will deal with us the way he wants to teach us lessons. Sometimes, as I was saying, it's not always getting you out of the situation is best for you. Sometimes letting you be there and learn your lesson is the best solution. Like I was giving the example of exam. If I don't study, he may not pass me. He may say, hey, you need to learn because, guess what? You'll have another exam in your life. You'll do the same thing. So that's not the best service. I'm sorry, not the service. Krishna is not service, but that's not the best favor I can give you. That's not in your best interest. So I think the dovetail endpoint is Krishna, but that's how. And if we have that faith, hopefully we won't go to. But I personally feel it's okay if you seek help anywhere else. In your heart, you should know whatever I'm receiving is coming from Krishna. Does that answer?
Yeah, what I got from it is that everything you have to understand that everything is coming from Krishna. Like Ganesh, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about going to the demigods, and we're talking about using the resources Krishna has given us in this material world for things. So I don't think that's a problem to go to. If I'm sick and using ginger is if I go to Aiden and okay, I have a sore throat, he puts a Bhagavad Gita in my hand, I'm like, what's that gonna do for me? That does solve all the problems, But Krishna has given us ginger, and then I can make some hot tea and then drink that. That's Krishna's mercy, that's Krishna's mercy. But approaching different people for the ultimate end of life, where will I go? What do I do at this point? That I think we have to take shelter of Krishna exclusively. Because we don't have to go hither and thither around because Krishna is there. But Krishna has provided so many things, that we can approach him, that he makes the process so easy. And then even more merciful than Krishna is his holy name. And then more merciful than Krishna is Radharani. And more merciful than Radharani is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is a combined incarnation.
Yes.
And he just says, chant the holy name, and then you can be connected.
Yes.
And the Sankirtan movement is kind of like, it's kind of tailored to Kali Yuga, in that it tells us exactly how we need to. It's tailored by the Supreme Lord Himself, because He says, "You guys are all patita. You guys are fallen.
Yes.
You have no understanding of deity worship. You have no understanding of yoga or meditation. So just chant Hare Krishna, and you'll be." That's how the Hare Krishna movement started. So, those are two takeaway points. So
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as we were talking, I was thinking, like, compared to when I started and now, now I have a tendency that if I'm praying to Krishna.
Yeah.
I'm not to be disrespectful, but I'm not praying to Lord Ganesha or anybody, I'm praying directly to Krishna. So as I was saying, we have to arrive, and not everybody has same destination. There will be Ganesha or Shiva devotees, and they have a place too. Maybe if not now, they will arrive. We all have to go home. It's just like I took 71, I stopped to take some gas, and then I started towards home. So, there is place for those who go to demigod. I don't feel there should be any room for guilt that, I pray to Lord Shiva and not Krishna. And you will arrive there eventually. That's what I hope. And
it's an eternal journey, It's, even Prabhupada, when he went to the Durga temple, it's okay to offer respects,
Yes.
because they are devotees much senior to us, But they're much higher. Like Lord Shiva, he makes much beautiful prayers to Krishna, and he instructs Parvati that you should worship Ram, you should worship Krishna, So they're much higher devotees, so we must take their example.
Yes.
And also, they get their powers from worshiping Krishna. Like in Brahma Samhita, it says, Yat pada pallavam yugam vinidhaya kumbhe dvandve pranama samaye saganadi raja govindamadi. That Ganesh, you don't see it in many pictures, but the tumuli coming out of his tusks, Govinda's lotus feet are on top of his tumuli, and that's how he can destroy all obstacles. So it's mentioned in Brahma Samhita. So that's how he gets the power, So all power that the demigods are getting are coming from Krishna. So eventually, if you respect them according to their position, and then it's no problem.
Yes.
But then if the problem comes when we say we have such materialistic minds, we kind of make it like a video game. Shiva versus Krishna, who's gonna win?
Yes.
Ganesh versus this, who's gonna win? Oh, I'm on Team Shiva. I'm on Team Krishna. But we have to understand that's not how our acharyas weren't as dumb as us. So they were very very intelligent, so they could see all this. So to protect us, they may put these verses. So, thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Hare
It's like
Krishna.
watering the roots and
Yeah,
feeding
exactly.
the stomach,
Yes.
where all the parts will get nourished by itself.
Yeah, like the watering the roots, and then everybody's 33 million demigods are all happy. And not even demigods, like the forefathers, and even there's demigods to like Maharaj Nimi in the 11th canto. His only power as a demigod, Maharaj Nimi, his only power was to make your eyes blink. Wow, that's his only power. That's so he is in charge of every living entity's ability to blink. So so he has but if we weren't able to blink, what would we do? Who's doing Maharaj Nimi Yagya, But by worshiping Krishna, everybody's happy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Haribol. Preeti Mataji ki jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
So every month one class.
Every month, one class.